Back in June, I had the great opportunity to attend a Renaissance fair based out of Sandpoint in northern Idaho. There was a lot of great booths from people showing off their homespun goods, homemade goods like honey, cheeses, and even I managed to find someone that was making their own jerky, as well as displays for musical instruments such as wooden flutes, hurdy-gurdies, and other string-based instruments. Now, of course, this being a Renaissance fair, there was jousting and even heavy combat like Buhurt. The jousting, of course, was the big main event. Everyone loves that. That was what was held in the grandstands. However, something I noticed with the Buhurt groups was the fact that they are not doing any choreographed fights. They are in full armor. They are not wearing anything in the way of show gear. And so as I was perusing the booths, making my way down to the opposite end of the fairgrounds where the Buhurt fighters were, I thought to myself that I have got to get an interview with some of the fighters, especially after I managed to see several of the fights in the level of which they were going. Some fights didn't seem to be as intense as others, such as when they were doing the longsword fights, but the majority of their fights were pretty intense. So here we're going to sit down with a few of their fighters and get to know what the sport is.
So we're here with Wyatt from Knights of the Deep Buhurt team here in Sandpoint, Idaho. We're going to ask him a few questions about how the whole of the sport works, from equipment to just the fighting rules and details of weapons. So let's hear a little bit about your kit first.
Well, so this is a loaner kit, and that's a very common thing to happen when you're starting. So I started Buhurt in August of last year.
Just last year.
And I ordered my kit in October of last year, and sadly enough, it comes in Monday of this week.
That's kind of how it goes.
It always goes that way.
They late $1 short?
Yeah, but luckily enough, it's in time for my legit tournament, which we have in Boise, Idaho next weekend.
Perfect.
And I'm fighting for our sister team over in Montana, the Montana Sun Eaters.
So for that new kit, what style is it? Is it plate similar to this? Or
no, so it uses a brig. So it's very common to see brigs in this sport. Very rare to kind of see cuirasses like this.
Right.
I bought this off of my captain. And secondhand is also very common in the sport. But as I was saying, this is like 3 different kits. So I think this is a floating arm kit, which means they're not connected via rivets.
Right.
They're connected via rope. And then the legs are partially articulating, so the cuisses and the knees are connected via rivets, and then the shins, or the greaves, are free-floating, but they're strapped in. And then I don't know where the gauntlets are from, because I'm borrowing it from another guy, and the pauldrons are from a different set, and my helmet is
a little bit here, a little bit
there. Here, a little bit there. That's so common in this sport.
Yep.
So like this is, I know this is a Milanese 14th century crease.
So I built a very similar version of this, and the patterns I actually found when I was in high school from a website called Armor Archive. And the guy who designed the pattern for the one I made, his name was Sinric, and it was called the Tuberg Type 18, which is going off of the Tuberg Type 18 armor from Milan, Italy. And the reason it's called that is because that's the designator of the armor and what city it kind of came out of.
Yeah, see, that is a part of this sport that I'm not a huge source of knowledge on.
Right.
Is all the armor intricacies and this, that, and the other thing.
Kind of little difference of background.
Well,
building the armor, you learn a little bit about its history. You're just wanting to fight. So
I just wanted to fight, and the one part of this sport is the social aspect.
Yeah.
Like, we're a team sport for the most part. So a lot of times it's 5v5 in the list, and I have 4 teammates, and we're fighting 5 other guys.
Right.
And so you get really close, and there's a term called murking, and where we fight for other teams. Just as I said, I'm fighting for the Montana Sun Eaters this next weekend.
Right.
And that's because we just didn't have enough people ourselves to field a team. It takes 8 guys to field a team fully. 5 people on the list and 3 substitutions, and it's an all-day event. It's fights in and out, and it's best of 3, and it's to the ratio of 3 to 1. So for the most part, you only ever see 5v5s, but you can see what we call mass battles, anywhere from, I think the next size up, they're starting to play with 7v7s, 12v12s, 30v30s, and I have seen and heard of 250 v 250.
I think I've seen a few videos of that on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so how they change the rules because there's a couple of things that we do that our refs, which are known as marshals in the sport. So our refs are known as marshals, and they're very important in this sport because we are swinging real steel axes at our heads and all sorts of spots that might be interesting.
Right. Like in the last, I think it was the free-for-all you guys did,
Yep.
several guys lost their gauntlets during the fight.
Armor, what we call armor failures, which
Right.
is any piece of armor that fails enough to where it becomes unsafe.
Right.
So losing a gauntlet is very common in this sport just because of how much grappling is involved.
Right.
And grappling and our gauntlet bell gets caught on something, it comes off. It's the saddest way to get sat down by a marshal.
So being kind of a common thing, that is happening with the gauntlets, do you guys have a procedure that you kind of, or just a
It
rule
comes
you
off
do?
and and you hold it
Just
and you cover it
chicken
with
wing
your
it?
other hand and you just kneel down.
Perfect.
And if you put it, as a sport it's 3 points of contact for the melees.
Right.
And so you get a knee, a hand, you're sat down if you try to get back up. But as I said, this is a fairly honorable group of people.
Right. I mean, you got to follow the rules, otherwise you're going to get kicked out quick because how injury can happen.
Yeah, no, a lot of egos are getting left at the list because they come in, they think they're hot, and they go in the list and they meet someone that actually knows what they're doing in armor.
Yeah.
And they find out it's not very comfortable to just get wailed on.
No, it is not.
And as I said, this is a team sport, and we get back up and we hug each other, even if we just smacked each other all in the head, and sometimes we accidentally kick each other in the groin.
Right.
And it's like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that.
Kind of laugh it off.
You laugh it off, and you just go, I didn't mean to do that.
So going into that then, the rules, how do the rules work for this?
So the rules are pretty lax for a sport that involves swinging axes. No neck shots, so it's pretty obvious. Like our necks are armored, but let's just not play with that.
Right.
No groin shots, no back of the knees, and no top of the feet is where you can't strike. So those are the no strike zones.
So the guys going around wearing sabatons, that's kind of more of just a little bit of extra protection.
That's just a little bit of extra protection. And also, we kick people.
Right.
Have you ever kicked people in nice soft shoes?
Oh, yeah.
And you're kicking steel. We kick greaves all the time. It's a very common tactic in the sport is to kick a greave.
So-
because you're trying to lift their leg up
Yeah.
to get them unbalanced.
And you're wearing a more modern boot with those.
So
be
these
steel
are not
toe?
legal. So these are not legal in Buhurt international sports.
Gotcha.
These are steel toe shoes. It's very common when you're just getting started. You are supposed to wear period accurate shoes.
Right.
And that's just because of traction. And we do have a lot of period accurate aspects to the sport. Like this kit is not legal because of all of the mishmash. You have to be kind of similar throughout.
Just one specific
One period.
set.
Like I think you're allowed 50 years on either end.
Right.
And it all has to be from the same place. There's a weird head button in the sport in between what we call the authenticity committee
Right.
and the fighters.
Right.
So like here's one of the major ones. The fighters, we want to paint our helmets. We want to have colorful, distinct helmets.
Historically, painting armor was actually a common thing.
It was a common thing. This stuff rusts.
Yeah.
It's one of the main deals in the sport is we scrub it up. I use Birchwood Casey rig. Some people use WD-40, but like it rusts and it's not a good day because you have to have it presentable.
Right.
And so there's a huge head button period of, well, during the era, people would steal things off of other knights because this was not cheap
Right.
for knights of the era. And
Right.
so if you captured a knight, there's nothing to say that you wouldn't steal his sabatons or his greaves or vambraces, rembraces, whatever
makes
you
sense.
didn't have. If you were a poor knight, you might have a whole mishmash of a kit that's hundreds of years old because they, that's my thought on the matter, but they run the authenticity committee and
Right.
what have you. But yeah,
is
back
what
on
it is.
the rules of the sport. So you got the no strike zones. You're not allowed to strike in line with the spine. That's just to help prevent injuries. And when you're grappling, you're not allowed to have haft or blade across the neck, straight across. So that's why you do a lot of 45s and try and get it across the helmet as much as
So
possible.
no choke outs.
So no choke outs.
Okay.
And there's no hyperextension of limbs. So there's no arm bars or things like that because we just don't want to. Again, it's 5v5 and there's 10 fighters in the list.
And medical ain't cheap either.
Medical ain't cheap.
Yeah.
But like we're allowed to gap. Like there's certain places on my body that is not armored that is illegal.
Such as in the armpit, the elbow pit, and of course, you are wearing a cup, correct?
I am wearing a cup, but that's an illegal
groin
spot.
area though is still lightly armored, and accidents can happen.
Accidents can happen. You do see a lot of people wear cod pieces.
Yep.
And then we call them booty snipers.
Yep.
You're allowed to hit them in the butt.
I will admit I've done some LARP in the past, and I've had a small bit of great glee anytime sticks their rear out, hitting it pretty good there.
Yeah, no, you do see a lot of armored skirts in the sport, just to protect hips and things like that.
Yeah.
And so they're legal strike zones, and so I've always said there's two ways to get a fighter out, and that is either through grappling techniques and where you trip them to the point where they get 3 points of contact.
Right.
Knee, butt, head, hand. But weapons and the edge of punch shields don't count. Punch shields might not count. I'm not sure. But like if you have a long pole arm, you're allowed to stick that in the ground and hold yourself up on.
Using a semi like a lever?
Yeah, like a lever.
Okay.
But as long as your knees don't touch, you're good. And then there's the pain out, which I have very rarely seen, but it does happen in where someone gets gapped or someone just gets on a soft spot of armor. I'm fighting with a guy over in Montana that went and won at a Colorado scrimmage, and he was one-hitting people with a great big long two-handed axe.
Jeez.
And this is a team sport, so like we have positions. I'm typically what you call a rail or a one, which is next to the rail of the list. And then it's fairly simple. It goes 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And so your twos are typically meant to stick with the ones, but they can kind of float around. But they're also known as strikers. And a lot of times you'll see twos with great big long two-handed axes. And the one's job is to tie up the opponent's one and the opponent's two so he can use that great big long two-handed axe and knock them down.
Team tactics.
Team tactics.
Perfect.
There's a lot of judo and BJJ and all that that comes into play, and we add on to it because unlike a lot of those sports that are 1v1s, you're allowed to have a second person help you.
Right.
One of the common ones is what we call a head rip, and it's the most common way to get taken out in this sport, and that is where an opponent gets behind the opposite fighter and grabs a hold of the top of his head, pulls back, leans him, tops him down. A lot of times, if he's fighting one-on-one with a guy, and me, as the fighter, sees my teammate get behind him, what we call his feed, I take my gauntlet and I shove his head back, so my fellow fighter, has an easier time grabbing a hold of the head. He's leaned back, break posture, put him down.
Alrighty.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of the common like rules. There's some more intricate stuff when it comes to the authenticity committee.
Things you pick up as you go along.
Right. Like one of the common ones is like we are supposed to have like period accurate clothes that are visible. Anything visible has to be period accurate.
So the one guy out there in his underwear and no shirt was kind of a little skirt in the rules there.
Little skirt in the rules is if they were linen, you're good. But like I'm wearing denim jeans underneath. They're black, but they're not legal.
Right.
I got linen pants. But you see a lot of people, what they wear is cuisse. I think the term is cuisses. And that's leg padding underneath that gets tied to the
similar
gambeson.
to this style of leg.
Yes. Very similar. So like you're wearing a kind of like a padded gambeson and cuisses.
This is a gambeson. It's somewhat thick.
Yeah. And so we just typically have more arming points than but a gambeson was a piece of armor back in the day.
Yeah.
But like I'm wearing an arming doublet underneath, which is it's got arming points. So I got strings that help tie all of this to myself.
I believe you should have, usually from the ones I've seen, they'll usually have some on the top of the shoulders.
Yep, I do have some on the top.
Some right in the back of the arm sometimes.
So I don't have any on this one, but I have the C belt has been sewn into it, and I like that. as opposed to I'm
that would be
shaped
nice
like a
to
brick.
help. Yeah, that would be nice to help dissipate the weight of a little
Yeah,
more.
it goes all over my back and my shoulders and all that. And also, I'm shaped like a brick.
Right.
And so seatbelts like to slide on me, and it's not a fun ordeal when your thighs are sliding down.
Alrighty, so I want to thank you for your time. Last question: what is your regular day job?
I am a farmer and a gunsmith.
Very nice.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Wyatt.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, anytime.
Alrighty. All right, we are now here with Clark, who is captain of this team, and we're just going to be asking him a few questions, a little more detailed on the sport itself and how many years he's been in and what's made him stay in and why.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, everybody.
first question then, we'll get straight to it. How many years have you been fighting?
Well, as you know, my name's Clark, everyone. I'm the captain of the Knights of the Deep, and I've been fighting in Buhurt, or armored combat, now for a little over 4.5 years. Coming up on 5 soon.
Very nice.
So,
And what brought you into the sport itself?
well, it's a little bit of a story. So I've always loved this kind of stuff, quintessential kid who liked doing sword fighting with sticks and whatnot. And as I got older, spent time in the Marines and everything. And one
Thank you for
day,
your service.
oh, you're welcome. Welcome. Was watching the History Channel. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch Night Fights on the
Yeah.
History Channel.
Can recommend. There's also a Netflix series from out recently as well.
Oh.
They moved on to there too.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Well, that when I saw was the first time I'm like, okay, I've seen the reenactors, I've seen the kind of choreographed fights and stuff like in Vegas. And I
of
saw
lightweight
this.
stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, what they do is very technical, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's not the real thing. Like it's all choreographed, small hits. Seeing that on the History Channel was just like I was hooked right away. It looked like so much fun. It was so cool. The guys all looked gruff, like they just walked out of a time machine. Like they hadn't bathed in forever in beards and beat up fingers. And I fell in love with it. And I binged the whole show. And then I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, how do you find this stuff? And for years, it was actually kind of hard to get into the sport because it was so very niche. It's changing now, but it's still pretty niche. And I looked up armor, very expensive.
Yes.
Where the clubs were, not a lot around you. And I didn't want to be the guy to show up with no armor, just kind of standing there. And so I put it in the back of my mind. Just loved the fact that it existed out there and just went about my life. Well, a few years later, I was working, and someone I was talking with did what's called SCA, which is a few steps below us. They have their armor, the weapons, and everything.
And SCA, that would be Society for Creative Anachronism.
That's correct, yep.
Alrighty.
And they are a lot like what we do. They fight in armor, although they have much wider ranges of armor that they're able to use.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll be on a battlefield with a guy from the 1600s fighting a 11th century Byzantine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and with the samurai right next to you.
Yep.
Yeah, or a Spartan warrior or a hoplite.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, super cool, especially for the imagination. Buhurt is much more time specific. And before I get onto that topic, going back how I found out about it is one of my coworkers that did SCA and knew people who did this sport, who did armored combat. And I'm talking to her, I'm like, how do I get involved? Like, how? She's like, they're really welcoming. The community's very open to letting people try it out and everything. So look up a team near you, see if they have a loaner kit that you can use to try it out. So I started searching, and I found this thing called Night Finder. And you can also go on like U.S. medieval combat page, and they'll find like chapters or teams near you. And there was one in Montana, and I found on their Facebook that they actually were having a new fighters orientation that weekend. This was Wednesday. I called them Thursday. The captain was like, yeah, sure, come on down. Freaking found out where they were, drove down Saturday, got there an hour late because I forgot about the time change. And I walk up and he's like, you're Clark, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, that's me. He's like, want to get an armor? I'm like, let's do it. Like they had just gone over all the specifics. They had gone over the types and the rules and stuff. And I show up late and they threw me in armor.
Hell
And
yeah.
it was July, August time. So it was like 90 something degrees out. But I've done military, I've done volunteer firefighting, so I'm used to putting stuff on and
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yep.
Stand in the sun.
And since you said you're premiering for, you're well familiar with ruck marches. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty familiar feeling of just adding that weight. The only difference is it's better spread out.
Yeah, better spread out with around the body. It's crazy. Like you pick up a crate because, moving this armor from place to place is very tedious. That's why they had servants and horses to do all of it for them back in the day.
Yep.
When you pick up that thing, you're like, I wear all this? Oh my gosh. Like my kit, when I'm in full kit, I'm like 100 pounds of armor. Without armor on, I'm 250. I'm
Right.
350 in armor.
Right.
So back to it, went down there, tried it out, put the helmet on. They're like, how do you feel? I'm like, this feels very familiar. Let's go for it. Freaking swung my little arms until they went freaking dead, and I loved it. I was hooked.
All right.
So and that's how I got in.
So what's kept you in for the last 4.5 years?
The attitudes, the brotherhoods, the camaraderie. I mean, my favorite thing about this sport is how close everyone is and how everyone looks out for each other. There's not a lot of gatekeeping. Like that gatekeeping mentality doesn't last. Yeah, see, you can't have that mentality. I mean, you have standards, and you have to be able to balance the understanding that no one's getting paid to do this; they're paying to do it,
Right.
but also you want people to be dedicated. So it's a hard thing to find that balance with the team. And I'm a relatively new captain, so our team's been slowly growing over the last year and a half, almost 2 years. We're to the point now where we can almost go and do events ourselves as a team, official events in Buhurt International. That's the organization we fight with.
Right.
So they do tournaments all over the country and all over the world, but you have to have a team with like 5+ people, full kits of armor, not borrowing, full. And then you have to have like a roster of 8, and they all have to be registered, and all the armor has to pass authenticity screenings and everything. Because unlike the SCA, ours is very time specific. From the 1300s, early 1300s to the late 1600s period of armor, you can have Western kits, you can have Mongolian or Eastern kits, you can have, Slavic kits or Rus kits. There's even people that have Oriental. There's a fighter out of Salt Lake named Jacob Omer who fights in full samurai armor.
Very nice.
So freaking great guy. He's been doing this a long time. And those all have to meet certain standards as far as like the grade of metal and how it's treated. And then like the weapons have to be blunted and the edges have to be kind of taken off because there's no slashing there's slashing, but there's no stabbing allowed in the sport.
Right. So rounded edges, rounded points.
Rounded edges, all that stuff. That's balancing safety with authenticity.
Right.
It's hard. And, most of the teams, like I said at the beginning, loaner kits are a thing. It's kind of a coming of age thing too. Like if you're wearing armor that doesn't fit you, it's pinching and scraping, you're going to have little cuts and bruises no matter what you do. But if you really are for the sport, you're not going to care. You're like, oh, I want to do this again. Let's go. So you just come to the practices, try to be as dedicated as you can. Like when I was fighting with them, they were out of Missoula. That's 3.5 hours away from me.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go 2 practices a month or and then train on my own at home, and going to events with them, like fighting teams all over. Like we went down to Salt Lake, first national tournament, we took silver. I was really happy with that.
Congratulations there.
Thank you. And just as long as you're bringing a good attitude, you're willing to work hard, don't bring ego. Ego's like a lot of people will come in here expecting or having ideas of how they're going to do stuff, and it's just, you get humbled very quickly.
The first humbling is probably the weight of that armor.
Yeah, trying to swing the weapons. Oh my gosh, swinging a sword is exhausting. Trying to wrestle somebody. Oh man, I can barely grab them. I'm wearing giant metal oven mitts. And like trying to move quickly. It's like, oh, the weight, the heat, the ogs, like I can't breathe. People learn very quickly that it's not like in the movies.
Nope.
It's not like in the stories.
Nope. I mean, after he got stabbed in the shoulder in Knight's Tale, right after he wins the battle, all of a sudden his arm is just fine.
Yep, arm's fine. So, yeah, great movie.
Yep.
Not real.
Yep.
But, so it has its dangers. It has its technicalities. But the people are what make it, Cameron. They're there for you. They'll help you. They'll teach you. They'll learn right alongside you. they'll run up and punch you in the face during a match and just do everything they can to crush you to the ground. And then they will be the first person to stop everything if they see something unsafe. You know, they'll check on you, they'll lift you up, they'll give you a hug. You know, silly saying, Buhurt is love. Like, that's very popular in our sport.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's why I stay, because of that.
Another question then on equipment. You said you're talking about the standards and such. There's time period. What about the question of metal material? What is the requirement there?
Okay. So most of the material that they use, and I don't know a lot of the Smith specifics, but it's all steel, although unless you have a little more money, you can go into titanium. Now, there are records of titanium being used. I'm not a historical buff, so I don't know all that. But titanium is something that people use. It's lighter. You don't have to worry about rust with it. However, because it's lighter, you feel the hits way more. Like if I'm wearing a steel brigandine, you know, like a Wimbledon, which is one that goes in the front. If I'm wearing that and I get hit in the side, it's going to not be fun. But if I'm wearing a titanium and you get hit really hard in the side, it can hurt a lot.
So the steel kind of helps absorb the impact a little better.
Yeah, and it's that finding that balance. So, right, I want to be able to be hit and be okay. I want to be able to move, and I want my gear to be as low maintenance and as durable as possible.
Right.
And so you see the Western kits are probably the most popular. I'd say followed by the Eastern Mongolian kits. Then you get into the Slavics, which is like the lamellar, which is like the scale plates and stuff like that.
All laced together.
Oh, yeah, all laced together. And then you get the ones that go like full Chinese or full Japanese, which are actually very rare. Actually, you don't see a lot of Ottoman stuff either. You don't see a lot of Middle Eastern kits.
And those, in a lot of ways, those are a little bit similar to how the Slavic kits can be with the lamellar style, because that was also fairly common among them, though not exact same style. They did their plates a little bit different for shape and tying.
Exactly. And like the rate, like what they had on their legs versus what they had on their upper bodies. And so there's a wide array of stuff or styles that you can use. Most fighters are in a tempered steel or a spring steel or like a mild steel kind of kit. Mild steel is probably the softest. That stuff dense, but it also, you don't feel hits as much because the dent absorbs the weight and then you just hammer it out.
And that's been my background with steelworking. Wyatt's armor, his breastplate, I actually built almost just last year a almost exact version of what he's wearing currently out of 16 gauge steel.
Nice.
And among friends, we will put on our gear, we'll fight for the fun of it on my property. And all we're using, though, is kendo swords and the cold steel plastic training polyurethane swords.
Okay, we have the polyurethane swords. We've never used the kendo ones.
We use the kendo mainly for other friends that are not as into it as we are. The kendo ones, they don't really hurt when you strike, especially in soft areas. And if they're wanting to just try it but not get hurt, it's perfect for just beginners that are just wanting to find out about it. And just give something to them that when they do get struck in an area that's unarmored, it's not going to hurt. Because like if I get struck in the gambeson anywhere as hard as you want with those things, they just bounce off.
Yeah. Might have a bruise afterwards, but it's not that
Maybe
bad.
A little one.
Yeah. So with the polyurethane, though, a little heavier duty. I've heard quarterstaffs are really good to train with. You know?
That is one that I've been trying to get other friends in on, but they're not as into it as I am in that way. They're more in on the sword side of things.
Okay.
And being mild steel, most of my kit is all built in the direction of SCA, because I had been hoping for some time to find an SCA group regional where I'm at. There is one in Spokane, however, they meet on Sundays and Tuesdays. And I work a 410 schedule, Monday through Thursday. So getting to work at 6 a.m. after getting beat up on a Sunday is not exactly
fun.
That attractive.
Yep, no, I get that.
It's something you got to think about in these sports.
Oh, 100%. And they're, training times and schedules for sports vary all over. You have ones that are very, like, they practice multiple times a week, not only in what we call soft kit, which is a lot like buffering, where you have like, Muay Thai pads, helmets, gloves, shin pads, and then you have like kind of more heavy duty padded weapons, not super soft. Like if you get hit, you can get a bruise really easily, but not enough that's going to break you. They'll do soft kit fights, which you can do a lot of endurance training and technique training. And then they'll do kit fights where they put on their full armor and they just go for it. And a lot of teams are very different. Like us, we're restricted by our numbers. We don't have a lot of armor. So we can't do kit armor fights or practices as much as we normally do. We do mostly soft kit. So it's all based on one, what people can make, like as far as time, what they can afford, and like what people are willing to do, you know? So it can be difficult, you know, like you said. It's good seeing you, buddy. And one of our fighters, Nick, he's a newer one. He saw us at the Ren Fair last year.
Yep.
And this year he's now behind the lines with us, helping us support. Amazing fighter, great guy. And he, without having knowledge of the sport, was able to find good armor and get in. So
Yeah, these days it's actually, for clubs like this, it's getting easier to find good advice online for people wanting to have that, share that camaraderie with others, bring them in, giving them resources.
yeah. Oh yeah. And it's getting more popular. People are starting to find out about it.
Yep.
You know, you have what we do here, which is, I think Ren Fairs are really good for getting teams up on their feet, you know, because it gets exposure. So you get new people who are interested.
Yeah, you found one right here.
Yeah, found one right there.
Yep.
And then you get a network. So talk with people about certain things. Like maybe you find out that there's a smith in the area and you can talk to them about maybe they'll be interested in making weapons, or a seamstress that can make gambesons or chasses and whatnot.
Right.
This is such a good place for teams to get going.
Right.
And then it also helps finance teams getting like to travel to go fight at tournaments, because most of us are pay to play.
Right.
You know, the international tournament's in Denmark this year. And so
Wow, that's quite a ways to go if you make it.
oh yeah, my buddy, one of my the captain of the Sun Eaters out of Montana, the one that I called when I got started years ago, he's on the team going to fight for Team USA in Denmark this year. And so he gets to represent our country in the international circuit.
Now, that is
And
cool.
He started just a couple years before me. So with dedication, good equipment, and good like an understanding of how to train, and you know, you have a good attitude, people like having you around, you can go really far in the sport. So
Alrighty. Well, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing all that with us. And honestly, I hope to be trying to find out more about your club and joining you here in the future.
heck yeah, man.
Thank you very much, Clark.
Cameron, it was a pleasure, man. I look
Yes.
forward to seeing you in the future, bud.
You too, sir.